got our salvation. We got ourselves a guaranteed sellout, crowd-cheering bull. Her name's Rosie. She's 53, and she's brilliant.
What's that in her mouth?
She ran off. They found her eating a cemetery plot.
I'm going to come up with a whole new star act around you and her.
Darling, I'm not getting up on that. I've never ridden an elephant in my life.
You didn't know how to stand on top of a galloping horse until I showed you. You're a fast learner. This act will go through the roof.
Hi, and welcome to a brand new spanking brand new edition of For Your Review. I'm your host, Scott Burgio. Mr. Ross Martin is joining us, and today we're talking about the interestingly titled film, Water for Elephants. I'll just get right into it here.
Why do you say it's interestingly titled?
Well, it's not a very common, well, it's just not a very common kind of a title for a film.
It should have been called Whiskey for Elephant.
It's rather poetic. Water for Elephants. Well, if you haven't figured it out already by the trailer alone, basic love story. It reminded me of kind of the 30s and 40s films, just telling a story, no gimmicks, no overly hyped special effects, just a story.
Depending on how many of those animals were CGI, like I don't.
Well, I will give the benefit of the doubt. Expect at the very ending. Those are some good special effects. I know. At the very ending, when it took on the Jumanji element to
that was a little CGI.
Probably, and they just don't make films like this anymore. So to some, I could perfectly understand if they thought it was dull. There are usually only two things that carry a production like this: either one, the overall story; two, the actors. And assuming they have decent, memorable characters to play, it's the actors. I thought that the film was overall pretty well cast. I even actually, and I can't believe I'm saying this, I actually even liked Robert Pattinson a little bit.
You always like Robert Pattinson.
I'm not sure whether the character just suited him or he is that good to pull off the moody and smoldery kind of guy in a give and take. Reese Witherspoon did not disappoint, and the great Hal Holbrook once again pulls off another great cameo role. I was not expecting him in this movie at all. 2 minutes on the screen, and I'm teary-eyed. He is just such a fantastic performer, in my opinion. Yeah. Christoph Waltz.
Waltz. It's pronounced Waltz.
Is it Waltz? Yeah. Waltz. I'm going to hang some thought on with him. Too soon to say for me. I really want to see him in more stuff. I'm curious as to really what range of an actor, because in much of the film, it reminded me a lot of the character he did in Inglourious Basterds, where he's the guy who's going to pop off, but he plays it really cool. It just, I wouldn't say it was unpredictable, but parts of it were very predictable with his character.
Despite his range of work, like when you're not considering all the other movies he's done, like what do you think about him in this role? So I thought he stole the movie. I thought the movie.
No, I don't think he stole the movie.
I think he absolutely did. If you take him out of this movie, it is.
In Inglourious Basterds, in my opinion, he stole the movie in that film.
He did again.
No,
like you said, it's a very similar character. If he's playing a similar character, he can steal another movie.
Well, not necessarily. Not necessarily. In fact, I thought that it would have been more interesting to see a little bit more of the explosiveness of him, the real fear of this guy, the maniacal attitude he had. I thought we saw bits and pieces of it, but it would have been really great to see more overboard, more about how he would have been with the personnel. He talks a lot about it, and there's references made, but there's only one or two scenes that we actually see him interact that way with them.
Yeah, but that's how it is in Inglourious Basterds, too. Like, that's why he's a good character in Inglourious Basterds, because he's not explosive, because he just sits there and you can just see in his eyes what he's thinking.
In Inglourious Basterds, one thing that Tarantino does with him is he plays out these long scenes, and they're all scenes that build up, or you're anticipating a build up. I thought that he would come and go in what he did, and I could see a lot of potential of what he could have done, but again, it kind of goes back to the Green Hornet thing, where he had a little bit more fun with the character. And he does play this a little bit straight-laced, but again, it's that consistency of wondering, is this Inglourious Basterds Part 2? I'm not paying to see him play another Inglourious Basterds kind of character. I really like to see him do other stuff.
That's a different movie. Yeah.
I'm just saying, I felt that the characters were, I think he could have even pushed the envelope a little bit more with this one.
I was impressed with his performance. I thought like I said, I think he stole the movie.
Well, you're not going to see any Oscar nominations come out of it for him, from this film, to say the least.
Movie that's released in April. There's not going to be any Oscar nominations regardless.
Well, what I found fascinating is the fact that Sean Penn had been originally cast in his role and then dropped out of it. I would have been interested to see what Penn would have done with it.
Sean Penn could be cast in any role.
That's true. I love Penn. It would be interesting to see how he would have done with this. Before I get into my final elements, did you have any feedback overall about the movie? It's a love story.
Yeah, it's pretty.
Is it
like
dull
you said at the
for
beginning,
you
it's
or not
pretty
so
traditional.
dull?
It's not. I mean, I wouldn't say it's dull. I read some of the book. A lot of people were reading the book before it came out, and I decided to be one of those people, I guess. And I just kind of gave up on it halfway through because I didn't really have time to finish it. And it was a little slow. The book was a little slower than I was expecting it to be. And the movie was kind of the same. The movie really picked up in the second half, and I thought. With the conflict that was going on between the characters, between kind of the trio, like the love triangle in the movie, that was good. It took a little too long to get there, in my opinion, but good movie. I mean, it's not bad.
I thought that about halfway to this point, I wasn't sure if I really cared very much if there was a love story or not.
Yeah.
I was very interested in him as a person deciding to go into the circus life, you know, catching a train and finding himself thrown into the circus life, and kind of how the circus life really is, how these guys really sometimes make their money and then go bust, the kind of money that they would kind of sink their expenses into to try to get the bigger crowd. And it's interesting how at the time what their competition was the Ringling Brothers, and this guy's animosity of trying to be bigger and better than they were, and just the general lifestyle of the circus life. I thought was interesting, and I really kind of want to have seen more of that. You know, it's like the burlesque show that they showed of the guys with the cans or sticks or whatever, and the kids would peep in, and everybody had like their little jobs that they would do, and it was to keep that circus running and go from town to town. And that
you only have so much time in
the
movie, though, because in the book it does really explain the ins and outs of a circus and how they really work it. But I think my main beef with the book, and it kind of carried over to the movie too, was the character of Marlena, who's Robert Pattinson's or Jacob's love interest.
Right.
I just thought she was a very bland character, and in the book she's very bland. Like, you don't really care about her at all, and you can't really see why he likes her so much. It's obviously just like a physical.
And I think that's a good point because I agree with you. You know, I think what makes a good love story is that one, there's a spark, and even as an audience, you're attracted to the fact that you want them to be together, and those just points. I mean. She's cute. Her character's sparkly, but
she's just kind of boring. She doesn't really show much interest, and it's like, okay, why does he like her that much?
Exactly. You know, what's the draw here?
Yeah. That's what kind of separates a really good kind of dramatic love story from just a so-so one, which I thought this kind of was. It was good, but I wouldn't say.
Yes, I would not call it the greatest love story ever made. Yeah. I've seen far better.
It's much in the same vein as like Titanic, but it's not. I mean, it's similar.
Our director, Matt, referred to it as Titanic. He said, I thought Titanic was a much better movie.
Oh, yeah. Definitely.
Overall. Titanic, the best comment I always say about Titanic is the fact that it's a great love story. And, oh, yeah, the ship sinks. You know, it's like a reminder, oh, yeah, that's right. The ship does sink at the end. Yeah. Here, obviously.
It's kind of the same. There's a disaster.
We're now at the circus, and things go right at the very ending of it. Okay. It wasn't the greatest film ever done, but I liked it overall. I liked the tone of it. I liked the storytelling of it.
Enjoyable.
I liked the old-fashioned 30s-40s feel that I got out of the film. And that's why I would give it a 4 out of 4. I really liked that part of it.
You give it a 4 out of 4?
Kind of a 2.
How do you give it a 4 out of 4 and you're like, it's decent?
It was well, because I'm talking about two different elements of the movie.
Oh, you give
just as an overall film,
piece 4 out of 4.
And just being a story about the circus life. And I know the romance is there, but it didn't move me so much. I think just the overall story is really good. And that's the one thing I really liked about the movie was the simplicity of the story. The only thing I didn't like so much of it, I wouldn't say I disliked it, I just would have liked to have seen more of it. And that's the circus life. You get an idea of it.
If you give it a 4 out of 4, that's a perfect rating, Scott. You say it was a perfect movie.
It was really good.
You bump that rating down a little bit right now. Do it. Bump it down.
Okay, I'll give it a 3.
Okay, good.
Do you feel better?
Yes.
Okay. We're still deciding what we're doing next week, but it's either between Bridesmaid, I'm just not sure if it's next week or not that we're doing that. And of course we have Fast 5.
Our ex-director of the show, Clint Estelle, he's really looking forward to this one.
And what number does this one make? The 5th one?
That's why they call it Fast 5.
Okay, well there you go. Enough said. Well, next week we'll at least do Fast 5. Until then, for Ross Martin, I'm your host, Scott Birmingham, and this, as always, is For Your Review.